Everyone keeps calling for community, but no one wants to learn conflict resolution.
You guys, the community, like, dope as fuck.
Oh my God, so cool.
Should I air our grievances really quickly?
I think your friend should drive you to the airport.
Which I immediately was like, disagree and we will talk about it.
I want to be able to healthfully disagree with you and that be okay and not be a threat to our relationship.
The most unity and the most growth comes from that moment of struggle.
Give someone an opportunity to show up and it doesn't have to be to change your mind.
Like, if your self-image and your sense of self is that fragile, you have bigger issues. Sorry, babe.
Please, can we just be curious and compassionate with each other and fucking move on and handle your own trigger?
Just handle your scandal, babe. And scene.
I need in and out.
I know.
So when discussing what we wanted to talk about today, I told you I didn't want to tell you because I did want your stream of consciousness reaction.
I said, give me the headline. She said, nope.
No, because this is something you and I haven't unpacked as friends privately.
Ooh.
And sometimes that's fun to do on air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Michaela sent me this meme tweet, whatever.
Yeah.
And I fucking love it. And I have a lot to say about it. Here it is. Everyone keeps calling for community, but no one wants to learn conflict resolution. So the community dissolves at the slightest point of conflict. And listen, community is such a fucking hot, community this and community that. We need to work in community and collective consciousness, whatever. But actual community bonds come from friction. And I'm thinking of, there's examples which we can get into recently where friends I've had for 15, 20 years, we're having our first bout of friction to move through. And it's so cool to watch how we address that and how we move through it and what happens and how much closer we feel because of it and the conversations that come up afterwards. And I think I texted you because I wouldn't give you the heading. I was hot take, the subheading. I think your friend should drive you to the airport.
I immediately was like, disagree and we will talk about it.
Well, I think in the same sense that people call for community, but then the second friction happens, they're actually, that's my boundary. But the way that we have now made that so the norm, and that's just one small example of a flippant thing, but we outsource our acts of service and we outsource the inconvenient ways that's actually how you form community bonds.
Yeah.
And we've outsourced a lot of that to fucking AI and Uber. You are worth my time to come sit in this traffic and be with you because I love you. I would love to save you $50 from the airport and I can't wait to catch up and hear about your trip. That's what forms real bonds, not just being call me when the Uber's done, meet you at dinner. I don't know. I just feel
okay, I see what you're saying.
The take on community in the digital sphere and how community develops in real life, especially knowing we're in a severe loneliness epidemic and it's only getting worse. I'm really grappling with the way people are preaching community digitally on the interwebs.
We just said a lot.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of points of contact and of interest that I would like to dig into.
Okay.
Let's start with prong number one.
Okay.
With what happened when everybody decided to get really interested in their boundaries. Again, j'adore destigmatization.
And j'adore boundaries.
And j'adore
I love
boundaries.
a real boundary.
Love a real boundary. Boundaries and being selfish, because selfish could be good sometimes.
Necessary.
It be necessary.
Right.
But then just being a self-centered dick.
Uh-huh.
And I think, yes, with this, you can look it up on the TikToks because people are talking about it. I see a lot of therapists talking about it on the interwebs where they're like, what are we doing here, team? I thought we wanted to come together. When we impose boundaries that are, unrealistic is not the right word because everything can be realistic if you try hard enough. But it's you're trying to protect yourself and you're trying to be the good selfish. But what you're
building a wall too high.
You're building a wall too high and you're also you're feeding into this individualistic society that's the society that we're trying to fix.
The reason why I love this show in this space is because in this whole vein, I want to be able to healthfully disagree with you and that be okay and not be a threat to our relationship. I just feel people talk about all this community, but then if you have a different opinion, it's threatening to your self-concept or then we have to put up the boundary or maybe we're actually just not aligned. I want to build a community where multiple people can have different perspectives. They can all exist for themselves. You don't have to agree. It doesn't have to be threatening to you. The only way we're going to stop this us versus them mentality at all is being able to meet someone you disagree with and still remain in community with them. And like that's if you can't do that with your friends, how the fuck are you supposed to do that with
people
like
you're
a stranger
choosing?
or like people
Yeah.
you want to vote the same way you do or like however you want to take that? It is just
There's two different ways that I thought of this. Number one, I was listening to this relationship therapist. I cannot remember her name, but she was talking about this specifically where she was like, the most unity and the most growth comes from that moment of struggle and comes from that friction and that disagreement, exactly like you were saying. And so it's interesting. We talked about it in a previous episode where I was saying that this is the first relationship that I've been in where we've had moments where they were like really tough conversations about like the future of this relationship. And I felt like a weenie where I was fighting for it because I was like,
Oh, I remember
I've
this.
been
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
convinced that fighting for a relationship makes you weak or makes it wrong because I have it ingrained in me that if it's not a fucking walk in the park and that if you're not the same person, it's never gonna work.
both are myths.
I had to like let go of that. And so that therapist was sort of talking about that. It was like some of the strongest moments and the best beautiful moments of connection come from those points of being able to work through the friction. It's why like team building exercises are so powerful.
Okay, so hence prong 2. Because if friction number 1 is hard for you, you know what's easier friction? Drive to LAX if you don't want to have the hard conversation. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where that adds up for me. Is that like there's other healthy friction in these like small little moments that we can automate and make easy for each other. Again, these are all just flippant examples, but of these like small ways that when technology moves and society moves that we can like easily erase this friction where like that feels like building blocks to me.
Yes. I think my thing with the LAX thing is
Which I know I'm not,
harp
it doesn't
on
have to be
that.
that specific,
Yes,
but go ahead.
because
harp
I'm
on
like,
it.
I think that there is also then you're asking a lot. Like, I know it's not a lot to pick someone up. I think if someone's coming to visit you and you're not working and you can, and you go pick them up, you have a car, whatever. Great. Love it. Fantastic. But not always is that going to work out. We're like, you know, the people, my friends that are living in LA, every time they're traveling, they're not going to hit me up and say, Gabby, take me to the airport. Because I think also that's when we have to lean into the beautiful things that technology has been able to give us. But again,
I also
I'm harping on that
live
when
near an
there's
airport that's not as chaotic.
But again, it's like, you know, does my boyfriend want to fucking die every time I travel because I know I'm going to fly into LAX
And he's going to pick that
and he's
ass
going to
up?
have to pick me up? Yeah. Does he do it every time with a smile on his face?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he hate it? Absolutely. But it's the ways that we show up for each other. Does it need
Right.
to be the airport?
Totally.
Because I also think that sometimes the other side of that coin is that I think sometimes we are like expecting people to do everything for us. But I don't even want to go down that way because that's
Sure.
not even what we were talking about. The other thing that this made me think of is like, this is why Anthony Bourdain's style of journalism is genius. Because that man
I love
was
that you've been getting into him more recently because you know
so
how much he
obsessed.
means
I
to
know.
me.
But he is phenomenal because the way that he was able to navigate a conversation and have a dialogue with people that he fundamentally disagreed with was one of the most beautifully humanizing things to watch. And that is what makes me really sad, is because discourse and dialogue is lost right now. And it's a very us versus them mentality. Again, however you want to take that in whatever sphere we're talking about. But how do you expect to move the needle in any sort of direction if you can't have a baseline conversation with someone? Now, granted, if we're getting political, you can't have a baseline conversation with someone who thinks the sky is fucking purple. So like when we
Sure.
are disagreeing that facts are facts, then we have an issue.
Right.
When you're not able to have a dialogue with somebody who does not agree with you and you fundamentally make them out to be a bad person because of that, what are we doing here?
Well, and here's the other thing. I think when this gets into like advocacy or audiences or podcasts when they disagree or whatever, I think there's a lot of don't give this person a platform because they're bad. And it's like, well, how are you ever supposed to reach the people that follow them? And how is there any supposed to be teamwork?
lines. We don't
Of
spew hate,
course.
incite
Of
any violence.
course.
Like Grant. Yeah.
But also, like, I'm done having to fucking clarify that too. Because
I
at
know. I
some
knew you were going
point,
to say that the moment it came out of
audience,
my mouth. Yeah.
I'm fucking done clarifying that because one, obviously, bitch. I mean,
Yeah.
if you follow the show, of course I think that. And if you want to assume that about me, fine. You don't know me, whatever.
Right.
But I think even like the demand from audiences, like in a digital space. Like, I even think about our show. Like, I want to bring people on here that I fucking disagree with. And I want to be able to talk about
it
that.
more. Yeah.
We've talked about it more. And then sometimes stuff happens where we're like, we've had guests come on this show and say shit that I do fundamentally disagree
And
with.
we didn't speak up.
But also, I don't think we always have to.
No.
Like, I don't think we always have to do that. But I also don't want people to be like, oh, well, they're so different. And when, I don't know, I just feel like collectively, I would really love to encourage more of the Anthony Bourdain style journalism. And I'm just watching people sector people off more and more and more and more till it's only an echo chamber and you're one little safe space on the internet and like no one can hold multiple truths. And it's driving me fucking crazy.
It's boring. It's boring. And
it's boring. And how are we supposed to move on as a society without being able to do that? Like, it's an election year. How the fuck do you want to move on? How do you want to unite people? How do you want to agree? Like, how do you ever expect to like bring people in on your perspective if you're not even willing to look at theirs?
Yeah, but that's exactly it. That's why the Bourdain thing is amazing, because what he does is he meets everybody with curiosity. And he fundamentally disagrees with a lot of the shit that they have to say. Like, he is brilliant because he humanizes everyone in the way that he was talking. And you got to meet people with curiosity. You got to ask questions. And it can't come from a condescending ass place.
Don't ask a question that's leading or like you know the answer or that you can assume the answer.
Because think about how you would feel if someone spoke to you that way. You'd get defensive too.
Give someone an opportunity to show up and it doesn't have to be to change your mind. It doesn't have to be like, even if you can just understand why someone got where they were, like, I don't know. I just think we need this level of empathy and it's only going to come from these types of conversations.
And for bringing it back to what you said at the beginning, why would you want to have an echo chamber around you all the time? I know. Like, if your self-image and your sense of self is that fragile, you have bigger issues. Sorry, babe.
Say it again.
If you can't handle someone disagreeing with you,
you got bigger fish to fry.
You got bigger fucking fish to fry.
And this is also why, not to do another side note, I say your triggers are your responsibility. The world is not going to revolve around your triggers. And in order to exist in a world where like
the world isn't going to be a cushion
you
for your
can be
triggers,
yourself and like learn about people and do this and do that. Like, if someone could do something that activates a trigger, but you can know it's not about you or have the space to work through it separately, safely, and then like still meet, like, it's just, we're just sectioning ourselves off and off and off. And then I'm like, no wonder we're all fucking lonely.
It's also giving, we've lost the plot. Hey everyone, popping in to say thank you to all of the amazing people who listen and watch this podcast. We're so grateful for each and every one of you and truly cannot say thank you enough for tuning in every single week.
In order for us to keep bringing you all great conversations and continue building our community and raising the bar, we're asking you for some simple and free support. Subscribe to our channel, follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and keep up with us on social at Thoughts May Vary Pod.
And if you're looking to dive even deeper, you can join our exclusive Patreon community and download Co-Create, our digital manifestation journal filled with over 150 prompts to help guide your curiosity and unlock new layers of yourself.
Thanks for being here.
I fear I'm about to sound like a boomer, but I just, what you said earlier about like life is not going to be set up to just handle your triggers. This is where I fear we're becoming Weenie Hut Juniors in the world.
Yeah.
Where we expect to be coddled and we expect that like no one's going to upset us and everyone's going to be super nice all the time. To get to the point of it, it's just, I feel like this is where like, have you seen people making fun of like gentle parenting on the internet?
Oh my God, yes.
Because obviously, listen, I'm not a mom. I'm not a parent yet. And I'm sure that I will gentle parent my way, to a degree.
That's got me written all over it.
But I was talking about it with my sister-in-law's sister who has 2 boys. And she's like, sweetie, sometimes you're going to yell.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to fuck up.
Oh my God,
sometimes they're not going to have all the space to feel all the feelings. And it's okay.
Okay, I'm not comparing my dog to a kid, but
oh my God, yeah.
I thought I was emotionally involved and then I got a puppy. You know how irrationally angry you can be at a baby creature that like just doesn't know what's going on and is just trying to figure shit out? Like, it's just gonna happen. Again, we're human. It's gonna happen. But if you can correct your mistakes or apologize if you did something wrong and then like...
And not have out-of-pocket behavior, obviously. Again, why am I like prefacing as if they don't know? I do this a lot. Yeah.
But see, this is exactly why we preface, because how many times have you watched someone not preface and then all the comments are making an assumption about that person and all of their beliefs and coming after them and deducing. Like, the reason why we're always constantly prefacing is because of all these behaviors we're seeing online, which is like further making us, frankly, not be able to have a fucking point of view. Disagree with my fucking point of view. Who cares? I'm some girl you found on the internet. Watch something else.
Literally.
Like, literally disagree with me.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Like, you don't have to fucking cancel someone. You're gonna be fine. You don't have to remind me what my moral values are. Frankly, you don't know me. Even if you've listened to every single fucking TMV episode, you don't know me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I'm so...
I think the pendulum is swinging back this way a little bit. Yeah. I think we're starting to recalibrate a little bit because I think it got to a point. I mean, when we started this podcast, Meadow, I was scared to open my mouth.
Oh, there's episodes that we've never aired because same.
Because I'm like, we just said nothing for 45 minutes because we were scared to speak.
We're also learning our boundaries. I've also shared shit that I wish we would have edited out that's still out there. So, like, we're learning.
Totally.
Yeah.
Love this new edit that we're doing where like I could just read the transcript and I'm like, oh, shouldn't have said that. But yeah, it's true. It strips you from having a perspective. It strips you from having a point of view when you're so afraid of how somebody is going to dissect every single thing that you say.
Yep.
And we're talking about it like on a level where like we're on the internet and we're reading comments and whatever. But the way that would psychologically impact somebody, even if I wasn't on the internet, if I was watching a friend of mine get canceled or I was reading comments on TikTok that were just brutal, I'd be like, well, fuck, tomorrow in class, I'm not going to speak up. Or like, I'm not going to say that to my friend.
Right.
Or like, ugh, are they not going to like me? Is this boy not going to like me if I say that? Like, the way that you start to mute yourself and edit yourself out of the way that you're afraid of being perceived or taken out of context, you're never going to fucking win. But again, it's back to that. It's like if you can't handle somebody disagreeing with you and you can't handle my perspective being different from yours, when I'm not harming you, I'm not hurting you.
And listen, there's mean ways to share perspective. Oh, I'm placating again.
No, but again, it's true. But I'm saying I'm not being mean to you.
Right.
I'm not doing anything harmful to you or your loved ones.
Different points of view. I fucking love this show, and I love what we named this show.
Oh,
I will forever be so
my greatest accomplishment.
Proud. I'm so proud of this name.
Yeah,
like it is just.
And you guys, the community, like dope as fuck.
Oh my god, so cool.
Dope as fuck.
Every time I meet someone, they're so cool and so smart.
So cool.
And nice. And like, I love everybody.
They're just cool ass people.
Literally so cool. It's crazy. We need to do a TMV in-person event.
I know. Would you guys come? Like, not after this episode.
I'm like, we both live in different cities. So like, we'll see.
Yeah.
We could easily do one here.
I'm glad you didn't prep me for this unpacking.
Right? You asked me like 4 different times, can you give me something? And I said no. I said, pick me up from the airport, bitch.
And I said, nope.
And I said, okay, disagree with me. I like that better.
Yeah. Okay, wait. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention because when you told me and you wouldn't freaking prep me for this episode, I was like, community. So I was like thinking about what I'm unpacking that has to do with community.
Okay.
And so same, I guess, because we were talking about like, it has to do with people's expectations. And so I was just thinking a lot about, I'm finally getting to a place where I'm finding this nice little dance, a nice balance between the content and the art that I want to put into this world and the conversations that I want to put into this world that I want to put out there because they fuel me and that also are going to be selfless and other people are going to find value in. And that's like the sweet spot that I feel like I flip-flopped on because sometimes I'll be like, oh, let me ask the internet. Like, what do you want to see from me? What do you want to hear from me? And I think that's great. And I think it's like a good part of content creation. And when you're like trying to be a storyteller and like,
it's fun to have an actual dialogue.
Yeah. You also want to know who the fuck your audience is and like who you're talking to. And if it's a numbers game, we're talking about a business here. So you want to make sure that you're like feeding to the right people. But then also you have to take that with a grain. I think I was taking it way too literally. And then I started doing stuff that just was like very soulless for me and didn't really feel good. And so now it's been fun to be able to kind of disseminate and be like, okay, I care about, obviously, I don't want to say like I care about what you think, but like I want to know what you're interested in. I want to know what you, an outsider who doesn't know me personally, would like to see from me and what you think I would have an interesting take on. And like I'm interested to see. Sometimes you think you're being perceived in one way and you're totally not.
Totally.
So it's good. It's a good gut check. And I like hearing genuinely what their mind is on. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, like in order to authentically connect and create from a place of excitement and joy, it needs to be something that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. And so it's just been doing that little dance because I don't want to be this like content monster that's just like, but at the same time, we talked about it with the show. Should I air our grievances really quickly?
Sure.
With our artist way of the show. with our graphics and the way. So basically, when we were doing our rebranding.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
When we were doing our rebranding for the podcast with season 5, Meadow and I were having a conversation, and I'm so glad that you brought it up without me saying something, but you did a nice audit of the show. And you came back to me and you were like, hey, I feel like, do you want me to say, you want to say it? What you felt?
I felt like I have always approached this show of I don't want to do things just because other podcasts do them. And the reason I went like this to you when you were talking is because you called your stuff art.
Oh.
And it made me so happy to hear because remember when you thought you weren't creative?
Yeah.
And so that was like, so nice to hear. But I really consider this art, whether it's the conversation or the graphics or the expression. And I have so much fun being creative in that space, and I want to do things differently, and I love having even a visual point of view. Like that shit is what lights me up and what fuels me. But when doing an audit and talking about bringing all these different points of view in the room and conversations with people that disagree with you or from a different walk of life and being more nuanced, I felt that my pursuit of the art had placed a barrier to connect with people that like maybe that's not their vibe, or like placed a barrier to connect with the masses of like, I do want a really mixed and nuanced group of listeners and group of community and voices in the room, because that's literally what the show is named, to go back to that. And so I felt like this like pursuit of the aesthetic started getting in the way of connecting with other people.
No, exactly. And so that was making me think of it, because it was that conversation, right, of like, we want to feed the community and we want them. So this is where my brain went when I was like, we're talking about community and like community expectations.
Yeah.
It like went to that.
I love that.
And it was like, yeah, I obviously want this space to feel exciting for people, and like we can meet people where they're at, but then also at the same time not commercialize enough where it's like we're losing ourselves for clickbait and thumbnails and whatever, but also understanding, again, like it's a business.
Right.
There's SEO.
Right.
You know?
So like if we have to drop the aesthetic for some chuggy ass thumbnails, catch us out here doing that, because if it brings in a new eye that never would have found us otherwise, how cool.
Yeah.
And like if someone is here and disagrees with everything we say, how cool. And they like are interested in just what other people are thinking anyway differently from them. Like that shit is sick. I watch sides of the internet, most of the time given to me by Aaron, that I fundamentally disagree with, that I love knowing what other perspectives are out there and who resonates with it and how many people and what are they saying. Like, it's just fucking auditing humanity, man. Like, I want to know where we're at.
Yep. Everyone go watch Parts Unknown. That's the homework.
Oh my God, this is something else I was talking about last night with Damon Dominique, who I love dearly and adore and have spoken about on this podcast before. He's a travel YouTuber for folks that don't know. But he said something that Aaron reiterates a lot to me too, in his own like personal experience of there's always this discrepancy between the online narrative of like how to be respectful or show up for our differences and this isn't for you. And then other people being like, actually the way you like learn and respect something is like, I'm asking to show you and being brought in on something. And he just had a personal experience of that recently in a vlog that he talked about. But Aaron and I speak to that a lot. And I think, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I'm just like, I think no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, people can swing really far with those fucking opinions. That's all I'm saying.
And like, how cool that we can all have different opinions.
That's what I mean.
Dialogue is what matters.
How cool. Having that curiosity or meeting your lived experience or the discrepancy with what people are saying online and like what your actions are in real life, this is only getting more important. We get those fucking Google lenses and all that shit. Like, it's only going to get more and more important to disseminate out like what really is your lived experience and how are you interacting with human beings? And like, what is this weird mass troll follow the narrative? Like, how do we parcel that out between real discourse online and then like what's actually happening in real life?
Well, yeah. And that's why I am so emotional about storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's why filmmakers like Ava DuVernay are everything to me, because I think, and that is my goal with my writing and my goal with this podcast, my goal with any time I open my fucking mouth, for the most part, if I'm not just like being a stupid idiot, I'm just like, what a beautiful opportunity to be able to illuminate the fact that someone is a fucking human. Exactly. And like, guess what? So are you, bitch.
Exactly.
So are you.
Exactly.
Bleed the same, shit the same. Like,
Beyonce poops.
Beyonce farts. Crazier than poops.
Imagine.
Fucking toots it up.
Imagine. We're all just little humans.
We're all just humans. And so that's why I think it's just, I'm such a loser for like that type of storytelling
I love
because
it,
I'm
though.
like,
you know, I'm so
that's
in there
where
with
I'm
you.
just such a weenie hut junior because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it is so, it trips me out. This is
Yeah.
the moments where I go into the part of the episode that I go into high thoughts where I'm just like, and I've quoted it before and I'm going to quote him again, Prince Harry. When Prince Harry talked
yeah.
about that, where he was like, it's crazy. You can walk around the world and every single person that you look at, they have their own unique, incredible web that's just as complicated and intricate as yours.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person in this fucking world.
Mm-hmm.
They all have a story. And again, high thoughts, it blows my fucking little mind.
I know.
And that's why I think it's so important to continue making this art and sharing these stories. And I don't mean like this art as in the podcast, like, yes, of course, whatever.
art in
But
general,
like
yeah.
sharing stories, period.
The context will be different, but you can relate to an emotional understanding, or you can relate to like understanding how someone got to that point. And any ounce of compassion or understanding to make us realize how fucking small this little floating rock is that we're all living on. High thoughts. God, could we use that right now?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really sick of the divide. Please, can we just like be curious and compassionate with each other and fucking move on and handle your own trigger?
Just handle your scandal, babe. And scene.
I need in and out.
I know.
Take me to a burger.
Okay. Bye.
We just scream into the mic for an hour. Bye.
How's it going, y'all? It's Aaron. Don't let your Monday suck. Don't have those Sunday scaries. I'm tired of everybody waking up in the week saying, shit, it's Monday. You know what goes down? TMV releases every week on Mondays. Make sure you rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching YouTube, yes, TMV has a YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and ring that noti bell and never miss a thing. And also, join the TMV Familia by joining the Thoughts May Vary Patreon and by following at Thoughts May Vary Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you for listening.
Great.
There you go.
Thanks, AB.
Got y'all.